Welcome to the Awakened Heart Podcast. I'm your host, Nancy Walters. Get ready to create magic and miracles as you lean into your heart's desires. I believe not only does the heart want what it wants, but it knows. This show is a weekly deep dive into what it means to live from an awakened heart. I'll be sharing inspiring stories and real conversations with people just like you, who have turned the ordinary into the extraordinary. My mission is to show you how you too can be connected and heart-centered in every area of your life. Your journey to aligning with more love, more joy, and your wildest dreams come true starts now. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Awakened Heart Podcast. I'm your host, Nancy Walters. Have you ever stopped to think about the invisible environment you're living in every single day and how we pay attention to what we eat, how we move our bodies, our stress levels, and even the thoughts we think? But most of us really think about the electromagnetic environment surrounding us or how things like light and frequency may be interacting with our bodies. My guest today, Dan Stachofsky, spent years in the technology world, helping Fortune 100 companies like Microsoft and Amazon manage digital infrastructure during the rise of cloud computing and AI. But a deeply personal journey with his daughter, Jane, ultimately changed the direction of his life. Today, Dan leads Essential Energy, where his work explores EMFs, biophotons, cellular communication, the nervous system, and what he describes as creating greater harmony within our increasingly technology-saturated world. This is one of those conversations that invites us to look at something we interact with every single day, but may rarely stop to question. So let's dive in. Hello, Dan, and welcome to the Awakened Heart Podcast.
Thank you, Nancy. It's so great to be here. I'm
It's so
excited
good.
about this go. Yeah.
I am too, and I just love that we got so much time to really talk before we started this conversation live. And I'm really looking forward to this because it's one of those topics I think a lot of people feel but don't fully understand. I mean, we were talking about this. We live in this modern world surrounded by technology and all these invisible forces. And I don't think most of us ever stop to ask, how is this actually impacting our bodies and our energy? So I'd love to just open it up there. What started you down this path?
Yeah. Well, Nancy, it was not a path that I chose willingly, but it was one that my wife and I had to open ourselves up to. It was about 10 years ago because we had our firstborn that was born early with some complications. She had primary immune deficiency and rare vasculitis, a disease, and some other conditions that just kind of a global diagnosis that she was just not 100% developed in utero. She had some complications there. And so we started down a path of looking after her from a holistic neurodevelopment perspective, which worked well for her physical and her mental development. But what was still lacking was on the immune system. She was just still struggled with fighting off infections, kind of your classic bubble baby in some ways. She'd get an infection, her body would fight it off, but eventually would succumb. She would need antibiotics or need to go to the hospital for inpatient care. And that pattern happened every 2 to 3 months from the time when she was 1 till she was 7. And it got more serious, and we started to really ask the questions, what else can we do to help her? We were very conventional minded. Had wonderful care from the local children's hospital, but it almost seemed like the answers weren't complete. They didn't really know what else to do. It really became a medical practice. And I was a project manager. I did root cause analysis in software and technology world. So I started applying that to the home and saying, well, what is the root cause? What's really causing her not to fight off these infections? Because she has everything. She was lacking a part of her immune system, but she had enough to fight off an infection. And what it came down to was a lack of mitochondrial function and energy in her body. She just didn't produce enough energy. And so we we started to get curious about that and started to ask ourselves, well, what could we do to create a better environment for her to be to be able to fight this off? And so we moved out of the city, we moved out into the country, started growing our own foods. We kind of went down that path of a little bit of a permaculture, raising our own food. And then we got into essential oils and rife machines and all this frequency therapy. And those were helping, but there was still something missing. And working with a child and frequency is hard because the feedback isn't always there. So we needed something that was more simple and yet raised the body. And what we realized, it had a thought that came to me is like our bodies were designed to heal. You cut your hand, it just starts to heal on its own. You don't have to do anything about it, but you just, but if you can improve the environment, you put a Band-Aid on it, all of a sudden it can heal better, faster, more complete. It doesn't have as much scar. Well, when the environment was improved, all of a sudden the body responded to that environment. Well, what about the inside? What if the inside was the same way? What if the inside of our body, if we improve the environment, would also heal better? And that's when I started doing more on the mitochondrial function. And we realized that we got her mitochondrial tested, and she was one of the lowest that the practitioner had ever seen as far as mitochondrial function. So her body the battery in the body, mitochondria is the kind of the energy source of the body. It creates the
I was just going to
ATP.
have you define what that was.
So it's in the cell. We have hundreds of thousands of them in every cell. We have 50 trillion cells in our body. So we have trillions and trillions of these mitochondria throughout our body, and they are assessing the environment from what we eat, what air we're breathing, the water we're drinking, also the outside environment. They're evaluating that every like literally nanoseconds. And when they evaluate it, they're trying to determine what does our body need to be balanced, to perform all the biochemistry that we need to function. So they're like little antennas, always reacting, always responding, and then signaling back to our body what it needs to function. But they get interrupted. They get interrupted by the signaling can be by the noise basically. And that noise can come from electrical systems. It can come from ultra processed foods. It could come from stress, really any stressful environment, say at work or at home or school, can create things that can cause dysfunction in that area. But for a lot of us, our body adapts. We go into fight or flight mode, maybe that parasympathetic, we go into sympathetic, and then we leave an environment, we leave a situation, our body goes back into rest and restore. And the mitochondria then kind of repair themselves and repair the body, help the body repair. But when we have a chronic disease or an impaired immune system, we don't get that break. The mitochondria is always overworking and always trying to get us back into homeostasis or into balance. Well, food and exercise and good water are ways that we typically handle that. But when somebody has an immune dysfunction like Jane had, there's something more we need to do. And that means getting into the natural environment, more sunlight,
Mhm.
getting out in nature. And yet what we learned is that our natural environment just isn't the same as it was 150 years ago. Things have
Even out in the
changed.
country? Because you moved, I don't know
Right.
how far into the country you did.
I mean, we were about an hour outside of Seattle. So you're
Okay.
still on the west side of Seattle of Washington State,
Mhm.
but we had 10 acres and it was old dairy land. So there was a lot of farm and a lot of country around us. But you've got cell towers nearby. We had
Yeah.
power lines running alongside
There's the 5G, great. I'm getting microwaved.
yeah. And they're coming more and more. In fact, from 2020 to 2025, they installed about 750,000
Yeah,
new
quietly.
5G cell towers around in certain areas in the country. I know in Spokane, where I live, there's a lot of them. Different cities have more than others. They become smart cities, and
Oh,
so we
yeah.
create this mesh that we live in, and our body has to deal with that. And we realize not every frequency is created equal. Our body is just like our body's that antenna. It wants to take the energy from the photons of light, from natural light, take that energy and use it. It uses it as information and nutrition for the body. But when it's mixed with the electromagnetic frequencies from artificial sources like cell towers, cell phones, Wi-Fi routers, wireless devices, and even electrical wiring, that the electrical and magnetic fields, as well as the wireless fields like the radio frequencies or microwave frequencies, these artificial sources create chaos on the cell. And when they create chaos, that leads to the cell membrane getting stressed and then getting activated. These calcium or these voltage gated ion channels, or, like a calcium or potassium, start to get activated. Way too many calcium ions flooding the cell. That leads to a reactive oxygen species, which leads to stress. And that stress response puts us in sympathetic, which is that masculine form, but there's no break. There's no downtime. So 24/7, we're inundated with this chaos at the cellular level. And a lot of us, you can't see it, you can't taste it. Some people can hear it, and most of us feel it. But I think what's interesting in this conversation is we feel it and we mask it with other things. We don't actually recognize what it is, and for good and purpose, good intention, but we haven't been taught how to diagnose what we're feeling. So we'll feel off, and so we just need more sleep, or we need
Mhm.
more. Maybe we need better nutrition, so we're gonna go and we'll do an elimination diet for a while, or maybe we aren't getting a good sleep. So then we start thinking, well, how do I get more sleep? And okay, I'll do a meditation before we sleep. All good practices, right? Things we should always be doing anyway, but we have to. But it's almost like we're on a treadmill. Like, we can't keep up with it all now, and there's not enough time in the day to do everything that we need to do just for self-care.
Mhm.
It's like if I was gonna do self-care, it's like I could take all day to do that and work for an hour or something, and where's the time for my family and my neighbors? Um, and so, or another one that we've run into a lot is depression. Depression is definitely amplified by EMF exposure and blue light toxicity, the blue light coming from our screens and from like our phone screen or computer screens. Yeah, that there we can get depression from the content we're consuming, but it's the actual frequency of light coming off of those
Mhm.
screens creates an imbalance in our hormone production, in our hypothalamus and our pineal gland, that changes the timing in our brain, that affects our serotonin level and our cortisol levels, and that can lead to depression. And so now we're going to go deal with depression maybe from a psychological route, when it very well could be just the root is our electrical environment. And so I've learned to try to analyze when I walk into a room, what's the electrical environment in that room? How do
That's
we
such a cool skill to have. You can walk in anywhere and you would probably assess what it is.
Right. And to trust ourselves, to trust our bodies to tell us if this room is healthy for us or not healthy from an electrical perspective, electromagnetic level. So it's like this EMF health concept, that we have mental health, physical health, things that we're supposed to be good stewards of. Today, because we live in this technology age, and now AI is everywhere, and we have all these data centers popping up, and we have Wi-Fi everywhere, we want to start evaluating how we walk into these rooms from an EMF health perspective, because the electromagnetic fields can be beneficial or they can be harmful for us, and we want to be aware of that.
These data, what are they called? Data farms or
Data centers.
data centers. I just saw a story, I think it was on Instagram or something, about somewhere in Michigan, a new data center
Mhm.
popped up, and you should hear the noise from this
Hmm.
data what is it called again? Data
Yeah,
center?
these data centers.
Data
Yeah,
centers.
yeah.
Oh my God. It sounded like if you were at the airport and standing in front of the plane while it was winding up all day long, there's probably
Mhm.
nothing they can do about it. Nothing they can do about it. And we used to sit on our patio, sit outside, but how can we with this over here? And God knows whatever else it's
Right.
giving off there. But it was just insane that they could do that. Literally, they're like 24/7. It's doing this. So, and I know that going back to like all this energy and these frequencies, and we're getting bombarded left and right by this. I know that you use the phrase life is life's essential energy. For people
Mhm.
hearing that for the first time, what do you mean by that?
Oh, that light is life?
Yes, life's
Yeah.
essential energy.
Yeah. So when I talk about that, I mean is our every cell in our body, every cell in the plants or in animals is energized by light. And light is all around us. And that's the sun was the original source of energy. And our cells are powered up by it. We take the photons in from the sun, and those photons carry energy and information for our body. And based on how our body then will take it in at the quantum level, our electrons get their spin and their energy from the energy of a photon. So that's to me, when I did this root cause analysis, I was like, okay, where a photon interacts with our electrons, it doesn't get much more granular than that. I guarantee in 50 years, we'll have the ability to scope it and it goes deeper than that. But that to me is where life happens. And because from an electron, then that electron is going to give signaling to the rest of the cell on how it's supposed to function and differentiate itself and be then developing into a tissue, and then that tissue into an organ, and then that organ into an organism, and then that organism has its biofield. So what we take in from our environment from a light perspective is going to it's going to shine back out through our biofield. We can take in light through sunlight. We can take it in also through the water and through food. And so that's a lot of people talk about processed food. Well, one of the challenges with processed food versus raw food or slightly cooked food is that processed food is mostly, it doesn't have as much life in it, right? It's been depleted of
Hmm.
the cellular energy that we would normally need to get from it. So it still has vitamins and minerals and nutrients in there, but sometimes they're in a different form than our body can functionalize. And so that creates challenges with digestion and weight management. So but if we have more healthy, we were just talking, and to have an opportunity to go to Mexico, and we were eating just this fresh tropical food.
Hmm.
And I mean, we just felt great all week. It was just so healthy and alive, and you could almost taste the life in the food
Mm.
because it was so bright and full of life. And our body responds to that. I think that was something that early on that we didn't realize nearly enough is how much the food that we eat affects you're supposed to eat healthy, but you don't realize there's life in that food.
Hmm.
And so when we want light, we can get it in different forms, and the more natural the form, the better. But light is electromagnetic field. So the sunlight is electromagnetic. And we don't often now today we talk about EMFs, and we always talk about the harmful EMFs. But there's this whole field of natural EMFs. The sunlight comes from the water we drink, or fire creates infrared heat. That's a form of EMF. And the artificial EMF is mimicking what nature already provides. And it does it in a way that creates that stress we were talking about. And even in nature, we live in this canopy called the atmosphere. And this atmosphere has upper layers. And one of them is called the magnetosphere. Well, the magnetosphere is designed to protect us from harmful radiation. Well, some of those forms of radiation are radio waves and microwaves that we can detect. We have satellites and things that detect radio waves from outer space, and our magnetosphere protects us from that. But here in our infinite wisdom as humanity, we've developed radio frequencies inside the atmosphere that are broadcasting at billions of times higher intensity and strength than nature, than they would be naturally found. And so we've created an environment that's toxic to us from an energetic perspective. And that just takes life. So if light doesn't give light, it's taking life. And I would say that the artificial EMF is a form of light that robs us of life and takes life away from us. And so we want to surround ourselves with as much natural light, subtle natural light as we can to restore that life.
It's interesting about the natural light because I do not like putting lights on in my home. If I do, it's a small lamp. So the overhead lights, and I don't even think I have those bad lights, the ones I think I have incandescent, but I don't like night. I do real estate as well, and first thing I do is go and look for the windows. What is the light? Where is it facing? So I go all day without turning lights on at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I have this ring light just for this podcast. It'll go right off as soon as we're off this interview. But yeah, natural light is something else. And I've walked into some people's houses and it's just so dark. I'm just gonna curl up
Hmm.
and die. But yeah, light and nature and natural. And I do want to bring up something that you mentioned before we started recording is the light coming out of our eyes. Can you go into that more here?
Yeah, there's a study, I'll pull it up for you and get it to you, but that
Okay.
actually talks about that we are receiving light and our eyes actually. So the theory is that what we see isn't just what we're receiving, but it's also our eyes are emitting light. And there's an aspect that we're seeing what we are emitting and what we're taking in, which just furthers the conversation of how interactive we are with the environment, with nature around us. And when that nature is when we're looking at when the nature is artificial, if we're inside all day and we're around artificial light, it creates more stress on our bodies than we even understand. And the headaches that people get can be caused by this because we're interacting with these blue screens or with artificial light so much, and our body is not broken. Our body is just trying to stay in balance. And that's what we were finding with Jane. She was just fighting really hard she had to fight harder than the average person to stay in balance. But the more light we could get around her, the better she could fight off her infections. And it's the same thing with our headaches or with a sleep or brain fog or stress or depression. The more natural light we can be around, the better the more nutrition we give our body, the more energy we give our body to fight off and stay in balance. So we can be surrounded by technology but not be affected by it as much because we give our body the information and the nutrition it needs.
hmm And I know you talk about EMF as affecting the nervous system through fight, flight, or flow,
Hmm.
as you were just talking about there. How does someone recognize when they may be experiencing that dysregulation?
Yeah. So it is something that keeps the nervous system out of balance, and we can measure when we get back in balance. One, it's if you're, I think if you're stressed out more often, if you're not able to manage your anxiety, would be one way to know if your nervous system is out of balance. If you have sleep dysregulation, like your circadian rhythm is out of balance, if you're not able to sleep through the night, if it takes you a long time to fall asleep, or when you wake up in the morning and you're more tired than when you went to sleep, that would be a sign that your nervous system isn't. Yeah, I would also say if you are in a situation where you're just, we say you have a short fuse, or that can be a sign that your nervous system is out of balance.
We're all going to be like in the movie The Kingsman, where all these signals are going to come out of the phone and it's going to make people. And just like what was the other Westworld, they did it as well, where signals come out of the phone and makes people attack each other and go crazy and stuff like
Yeah,
that. We're so close to that. It feels like
that's what I
because
don't think we
there's
realize so much is a lot of us are trying to get still and be quiet and calm, but we're so busy. We think, oh, I just have a busy life. I'm running from one thing to the next, or I've got so much going on with the children or with work. And yet, how much of it is that it's the frequencies around us that are stimulating us and keeping us on edge. Because I think what we can handle more, I noticed that when we started managing our light and really taking that more seriously, I was able to handle stressful situations a lot better. It doesn't change how stressful or how intense those situations were, but I was able to absorb it and process it and think more clearly or more be I have a lot of people who would say, that have said, "Dan, you're just so calm," or you're just so yeah, you're just so calm in these situations. How do you do that? I don't okay, there's different practices you could have, but I think a lot of it is that as we started to utilize some of these products to help get more light around us 24/7, I think our body responded and kind of created that, gave us an edge that we didn't have otherwise. Like there's different practices we do in life to help give ourselves edge, whether maybe it's breath work. A lot of people do a lot of breath work, and that really does help. It helps calm us down, helps us regulate our hormones and our sleep, and it can help with the nervous system as well. But it seems as soon as we're done with the breath work, we go back into the real world
Yes, yes.
and we're hit again. How do you
Mhm.
maintain that?
Yeah. Yeah, because we're getting bombarded all the time, and a lot of those practices do work.
Oh yeah.
And if you have you ever thought about have you ever putting an art project together? I think I've seen it once where all the different frequencies coming out at us once, like color coding all the frequencies, and there's a blue one and there's a green one, and there's just like we're constantly bombarded by all these frequencies that our body, like you said, there's natural frequencies that are coming from the sun, from nature that we need, but all this artificial frequencies. And I know there was a theory, it's gone around out there, take it with a grain of salt, but just about how, the pandemic that happened, that it was actually because they introduced 5G at the time. And then we're
Mhm.
hearing stuff about the Spanish flu, that it wasn't, they introduced some other technology during that. And well, we know it wasn't actually, it was well, we know it was the masking, it was bacteria. They were getting bacteria, but when they roll out this new technology, it's actually like almost radiation poisoning. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
What are
I
your
think
thoughts on that?
it's interesting to go do the research on what microwave radiation poisoning is and
Mhm,
look at the symptoms and then compare that to the symptoms of flu
mhm.
or some of these other things you
Yes.
just listed,
The
right?
C.
The C word.
Yes.
The overlap is remarkable.
Mhm,
So there's a book called The Invisible Rainbow by Arthur Furstenberg. He passed away about a year ago, but he did incredible service to humanity. He did the history of electrification of the world, and he wrote this large book showing that electrification started back in the 1700s with this deal called the Leyden jar. But he charts the progress of electrification and how like we became addicted to it. Almost, it's very much like what we experienced in our own lifetime with the iPods and the iPhones. It's like it was so, it was just so remarkable that we could carry a phone in our pocket and you didn't stop to think about the health effects. But along the charting of the electrification, he also charted what the health community, what doctors were saying. And doctors in the late 1700s were identifying symptoms of what they called neurasthenia or al- allergies to electricity, like electrical allergy. And so they were documenting these symptoms associated with neurasthenia in the late 1700s. And then they did it again in the 1800s after the telegraph was deployed. And you had all these electrical wires now, 30,000 miles of it wrapped around the globe. And these people getting sick and they're getting brain fog and they're getting tumors in their fingers, the telegraph operators. They'd
mm,
never had tumors in their fingers before, but they found that the telegraph operators were getting these. Um, and then it led into the 1800s where they started to bring light bulbs and electricity to the cities. And then what was interesting is that so they electrified the cities before they did rural America. And there is clear health data that shows that cancer, diabetes, and heart disease increased in the cities when they started to bring electricity into the cities at a different rate than rural America. Rural America didn't have the cancers and the diabetes and the heart disease. But then in the 50s, 30s, and 40s, they started to bring electricity into the farmland. And within a decade, the rates of heart disease, cancer, and diabetes caught up with what was in the cities. So a very clear I think a connection
Hmm.
worth doing your own research on. I think it's really interesting to look at history and study that. So but the conditions and the symptoms are very similar to what we're all dealing with today. And Sweden even has electrohypersensitivity as a workplace. What do they call it? But it's an accommodation that if you can be clinically diagnosed with electrohypersensitivity and need to that, and then the workplace has to accommodate you for that. The US, we don't do that. And it's getting kind of worse. I'll go on a little bit of just for people to know that right now the telecom industry is really pushing to remove local ordinance jurisdiction and control over where cell towers get placed. And they want it to be done at the federal level, so that your local city or county, right now you have the local jurisdiction can say, we don't want a cell tower within 500 feet of a school or of a hospital learning center or something.
Hmm.
Well, the telecom wants to work with the federal government to remove that
They don't
and
know
say,
the cities. The federal government's not going to know local cities.
right. And so then the telecom can put the cell tower wherever they want it to.
Good Lord.
And there are bills being pushed right now to do this. And so we've got to get in front of that and let Congress know, like, no, we have to respect, in the United States, we have to respect local authority, because local authority that's what makes us America. That's what
Yes.
makes us a strong country, is that we have local authority. And we're starting to lose that. And in the Farm Bill right now, we're starting to lose the protections against the chemicals and things, but also this precision ag, where they want to put the virtual fencing collars on all the livestock, so that you don't have to have fences anymore, and it's run by GPS and cell signal. So it's like putting a cell phone on the neck of every animal, every cow, every goat, every sheep, every animal that we get our meat from and our food from. They're wanting to put these collars on their neck 24/7 from the minute they're born until they die. And there's going to be major issues with that. We run into this all the time with our ministry, Essential Energy, where we are working with farmers to help them mitigate the effects on their livestock, which are pregnancy, fertility issues. The milk production is reduced. The quality of the milk is reduced significantly. All the minerals, the nutrition, the CoQ10 quality of the milk is lowered. And now we're moving into a space, because we have AI and technology, this age of technology, where it's just too convenient to think about the next application for technology without stopping and thinking about the health implications and what that's going to do to humanity, what it's going to do to the animals that we're supposed to be good stewards of, and the land that we're supposed to steward. And the earth, it's breathing, it's living, and we're suffocating it with all this electromagnetic radiation. And I think there's going to be a balancing. Nature's going to balance itself out at some point. But in the meantime, I want to work however we can to help create this balance in the midst of it and allow us to steward the land and our lives better, even right now. And I think we can. But we also should be stopping the big ag and big tech and big government from
Yes.
just going overboard.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I like how you say being steward of the land, steward of our animals, because we need to be. That's how the American Indians were about the land and their animals, and thanking the spirits for the food that they have on their table or their crops.
Yeah.
And it comes down to profit. I don't find that these big tech industries and these pharmaceutical companies are stewards of anything. It's all about profit. Like, forget the humanity, and somebody forget, compassion, empathy for animals. And, you've spoken about farming and food quality, and putting these collars around these animals just
Yeah.
because they don't have fencing, and the electromagnetic stress these animals are going to have. And then that goes into our food, into our milk, into the meat, into the crops or whatever's around there. So I see that these are all interconnected in ways that we've been taught to see as separate. So there is an interconnectedness with all of this that you're saying, and we need
Absolutely.
to steward it more. Um, yeah, we do need to get ahead of all this. And during the whole last couple of years, I had heard early on that, oh, well, look at this. Look at what happened. This is when they introduced these technologies. And, you'd be slammed as, oh, misinformation. And, but I think a lot of people are becoming more aware of that. And hopefully we can get ahead of these things and they will listen to us, hopefully, because they're supposed to be working for us, but it doesn't seem.
We know how that works.
Yes, we felt like, who is running this country? It
I
doesn't
know.
matter who is in charge. Like there's it's clearly other people are pulling the strings because I don't know what's happening in the White House right now.
I don't get it either. I don't get
Yeah.
it. It's all backwards. They're protecting the wrong people. It's like they're doing some things that are beneficial, like reversing the food pyramid, I thought was a great step.
Yeah.
But then on the other side, they're protecting the very companies that are poisoning the land
Yes.
and demeaning or shutting out the scientists who are developing great microbes and things that could heal the land.
Yeah.
I want to live in a world where we live in abundance, and abundance is what creates freedom. And we should have abundance of light and abundance of food. And where would the wars be? Because now we don't have scarcity anymore. So people have what they need. But it seems like, yeah, there's two systems, and we're not going to take down one system. We need to create the parallel system. I really like the encouragement, like know your farmer, get your food from local farmers, local meat. If you eat meat, if you do vegetables, there are local co-ops. There's local farmers that produce that for you. You don't have to go to the grocery stores. You can eat more natural foods and plant-based foods. It's all available. This is the other thing that I've kind of learned over the last 10 years is sometimes we don't realize what's out there because we didn't know where to look. We didn't even know to look. We didn't know the questions to ask. And maybe the one silver lining of AI, which I don't see a whole lot of silver linings, but one silver lining is
As you glitch there. You said that and you glitched like you went over here.
That was weird.
Yeah.
I
Did
don't
you
know
see
why
that?
that was.
Like, don't
But-
talk about me.
Yeah,
AI.
right. The AI that's happening right now. But maybe one silver lining of AI is that it's going to teach us how to ask good questions and complete questions. I think with the age of Google and just searching something random, like anytime you had the littlest question, I'll just Google it. I'll just search it.
Yep.
We've kind of dumbed us down in our critical thinking. AI, the better response you get from AI is all about how well you ask the question.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe that'll help us ask better questions and we can get more curious of, well, how do I eat more healthy, or what food is best for me to consume, and see what comes and let that start to create a whole new area of discovery. But we've created an environment that is pretty toxic to us. And I believe that we can't heal in the same environment that we got sick in.
Mm-hmm.
And so it comes back down to how do we restore that environment? And with the satellite internet now, with Starlink and their 147 competitors, they're not the only ones doing satellite internet. There's 147 companies at least around the world that are doing this. And between all of them, Starlink, it just asked to get permission to do a constellation of satellites for data centers in space. 1 million satellites or more. I forget the exact
Holy
number, but it was
God.
close to 1 million. Well, 5 years ago, there was a guy in France who put out petitions for over 500,000 satellites as well. Maybe he saw what was coming and already wanted to do the data centers, but there's just no end to what they want to do with that. And I think the more local we get, like keep it simple, going back to nature and amplify the quality of light in and around us, and the answers will present themselves. We'll find communities that are operating differently. There's a beautiful community I was introduced to in North Carolina where they're almost on a barter system,
We are going back
and
to
they're
that.
thriving and they're beautiful and they're full of life and they're surviving, and they don't have all the entanglements that so many of us have because they've figured out, they found a community that they can operate differently.
I think I saw that. Did it just come together? Because I think over like 2020 and all that, people were looking for alternative places to live, and they were selling pieces of a land where you'd be a community, you have your own house, and you'd be in a community. I wonder if that's one of them
It could
because we
be.
do have to have those outside systems. And I know the powers that be are trying to make it hard for us because they want us in these 15-minute cities and these little boxes and
Yeah.
all that. So I think we just have to revolutionize and not fall into that where they want to box us in, create our own. We're going to be divergents, or like those movies where we're just on the outskirts and they're in the cities and we're the crazy ones, but we're living amazing lives. Because I do not see,
Right.
with the way our current system is, unless, I mean, there needs to be a whole upheaval without getting into politics of the two-party system. It doesn't work because I voted for who's in the White House right now based on promises, the first president I ever voted for, and he got in there, and I'm seeing like completely a 180, seeing how,
Yeah.
you can have all these promises, but it's two sides of the same coin, and the same people that are controlling the other is controlling this one. So
Yeah.
we need a whole new, it's just got to go. It's got to go. And I don't know, see how it will anytime soon. Hopefully it will, hopefully, because it doesn't seem like they listen to us at all. So it's these beautiful communities we're going to be creating that are outside of these systems that are going to, I think over the next, 10 to 20 years, that we're going to see popping up even more because I am not going in a 15-minute city. I
Yep.
need my nature. I need to be
Hmm.
walking on trails. I need space. So, and I know there's a lot of fear and frankly, a lot of marketing in the EMF space and what, is rolling out. I would ask, how do people separate legitimate concerns from hype?
Hmm. Yeah. In the EMF space specifically, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's lot of noise out there.
Hmm.
Just like there's a lot of frequency noise on affecting us, there's a lot of noise in the EMF space, and people look at every opportunity they can to make money. And I think you have to understand the company behind the product and what they're about, what's their heart, and know like where are they, what's their source, and where are they coming from. If they are a marketing machine, chances are the product is not quite doing what they think, or it won't work for very long. But for me, it comes down to do I know the person behind the company, and do I know what their mission is, and what are they truly about? And that'll differentiate. I think that'll cut out 99% of the noise that's out there.
Use the phrase resonant biophotonic harmonics. What does that mean in practical human terms?
Yeah, I know. It, in when we get into physics, we have to use certain words to describe it, but in reality, what it is that we are all resonating in certain frequencies and certain energies. And so if we break that down, resonant just means we're resonating. If you look at metal, so I've got these metal plates or the products,
Hmm.
right? And all metal, the properties of metal is they resonate. They have certain frequencies. So gold resonates it and it has a wavelength we see as gold, copper at copper, silver at silver, and stainless steel at the stainless steel. So it's just the frequency or the wavelength that we see that's resonating off that metal. The photonics that's the world of light. And so we're back into light is life. So when light hits this metal, a photon hits that, it picks up the resonant frequency of the metal and reflects back off. And then harmonics is what we engineer into the metal to amplify the quality of the light that comes off the metal. So when we do that, so now we create a full spectrum light that reflects off this surface of the metal. And when we have full spectrum and it's amplified energetically, we're getting more photons per centimeter cubed coming off of this plate than it would naturally. And that was what the key was for Jane and my wife, sort of their Hashimoto's, and just so many people now. This is what it means for me to improve the quality of light in my environment. It's not getting a vitamin D light. Those things are beneficial. It's not doing red light. They have their place. But those are also using electricity. They may not have RF, the radio frequency form of EMF, but they do have electrical and magnetic fields because they're using electricity, whereas this one doesn't. And so it's all natural light, it's balanced, and it has all the harmonics of light. We typically don't think about that. We don't get taught about light very much in school. We get taught about chemistry, we get taught about sound, but sound has harmonics. And we know that you play an instrument and you can have the harmonics of different notes. Light is a frequency and it has harmonics as well. The digital frequencies of artificial EMF from your cell phone is just packets of information, whereas light from nature, from sun, is full spectrum. And so what we're doing is we're amplifying that natural light and making it stronger, which mitigates the effect of that EMF through this resonant photonic harmonic technology.
Now, I know that you probably have a lot of skeptics that hear this about light and energy, and they might think it sounds so esoteric or unproven, especially when it touches on energy, meaning, and maybe even consciousness. How do you respond to healthy skepticism?
Well, I say I was in the camp as well. When I
Mhm.
first met this, it was introduced to this. Went into um, deep YouTube university and dusted off the books from college on chemistry and physics around this whole space to understand what's the concept of biophotonics, ion science, and material science, to understand that there is a place for this. This world is called, one of the technologies we use is called plasmonics. And plasmonics is used in the semiconductor world, making computer chips, and then also in satellite, like the panels for the solar panels on satellites to increase the amount of energy they take from the solar photons. I think it's one of those things that we don't know what questions to ask, or we didn't know where to look. So as you start to look into this more, you realize there is a whole body of science around this. Just doesn't get utilized or applied in this way. It's more in the technology sector. So for us to be applying it into the human side of things, or to, in this at this macro level, it is unique. But I encourage people to try it themselves, and just to come up with the concept of understanding how much light affects our environment and how much our environment is affected. And it made plausible sense that, okay, if we can improve that environment, then we can improve our outcome. Let's give it a shot.
So, what would you think humanity is being asked to remember right now? I think you gave us some ideas. What do you
Mm.
think humanity is being asked to remember right now about our relationship with nature, energy, and life itself?
That's a great question. I think we're being asked to remember where we came from. In the beginning there was light.
Mm.
We are salt and light. We are to be, light to the world. I think we are missing the forest for the trees. We're missing where we originated from and where we've been up until the last 100 and some years. We have been life and interconnected with nature. I think we used to um, interact with nature so differently than we do today. And so I would say we are being asked to remember that and go back to that and fight for it. We have forces that are working really hard to steal that nature from us and mimic it and replace it. A great example is lab grown meat.
Oh, God.
They're trying to they're thinking they can do better than nature. And yet nature
No.
wants us to remember that it's the ultimate source of good. Like that's where we came from. And let's not forget it, and let's fight for it and defend it and then steward it.
Speaking of that lab-grown meat, thank you, Bill Gates. And they're gonna put it in a way where it's this label that you have to know what to look for that it's lab-grown. It's not gonna say lab-grown meat, it's gonna have this certain label on it. And that just reminded me of something else I heard, how I forgot what country it is, where they're going to have babies, like where men can have babies, or I mean, they don't have a womb, but where it can be grown outside of the womb. But where is consciousness? I forgot what it was. I'm like, well, there's no consciousness there. So how can you, anyway?
It
Well,
doesn't
that's the whole thing about
make sense.
transhumanism,
Yeah.
so that's another. Well,
Again, totally forgetting who we are and
exactly.
disassociating ourselves for a false reality.
Yes.
We need to connect more with God and with others. And we're being completely thrown into the gauntlet of disconnecting from God and disconnecting from others. And the more we do that, the more, I don't know, brain dead we get, we become. And somehow we accept these things as we're advancing. I think we need to choose which form of society we want. What life do we want? And get back to, why aren't we satisfied with just a simple, basic life? I actually wonder how much electricity has even really helped us. There are certain things, refrigeration is better and some medical care is better. But on the whole, I really wonder how much better off we are in our day-to-day life with all the electricity we have. You talked about having lights on. You talked about now we have a utility bill. I mean, now we have all these other expenses.
And then we're taxed on that, and then we're taxed on that, like taxed on electricity, on gas, on internet, everything, phone. It's crazy. It's crazy. Well, this has been such a great conversation. If people listening could do one thing today to bring themselves into greater energetic harmony, where would you start?
Hmm. Turn off, go. Okay, so let's see. I have a couple different ways I like to answer that usually, but maybe for this one, I would say go on a cell phone fast. Go on a Wi-Fi fast. Take a week and limit yourself to an hour a day of cell phone and turn off the Wi-Fi. Only connect your phone to the Ethernet. You can get adapters for that, but I don't know, just try to create just go on a EMF fast. Maybe that's what it could be called. I would encourage people to go on an EMF fast.
Okay.
Find out their ways in their home where they can just turn the Wi-Fi off at night, at least turn it off at night.
That's what I've
Don't
heard.
look at your cell phone for the last hour to 2 hours before bed
Mhm.
and for an hour or two when you wake up, and just create margins. You talk a lot about margins, a lot about gaps. When you breathe, there's a gap. When you wake up, there's a gap. Extend the gap between when you're alive, when you wake up, and when you look at technology and when you use technology. Start to regain that space where I think you get more grounded, more centered in yourself, and you connect with your own thoughts better. Create that space. Don't lose it.
Mhm.
Everybody's going to want to take that from you and give you every opportunity to steal that from you, but it's yours and it's only yours, and you have to fight for it every day.
Extend the gap. I like that. And I have heard about turning the Wi-Fi off, but it resets my whole printer, my everything gets all messed up. But I do turn my phone off, or I put it on airplane mode, and I know you can still get stuff off of that. And then I have this solid wooden nightstand. So I turn it off and then I slide it under the wooden stand because it's got wood all around it. So I at
Yeah.
least do that.
Yeah.
But I try
Well, it's
not
a
to be on the
step.
phone.
Most people fall asleep with it right in their bed,
No
right by
way,
their
man.
pillows and stuff. So,
No, it's
um,
either off or airplane mode and hidden under something. Or if I'm not in my own bedroom, I'll put it in another room because, yeah, things come off of those phones. So in the blue light, I try not to look at that. But aren't they supposed to at nighttime have something where it's not so much blue light coming out, or a nighttime mode, or no?
you can, yeah, you can put a warm filter on there,
Yeah.
but you're still getting the blue light
Mhm.
because of just the nature of the screen itself. So there are filters you can get that turn the screen red and it somewhat helps, but you're still triggering that reaction in the brain, in the melanopsins and the to trick it into acting like natural. So there is natural blue light. We get right now, it's about 12:30 or so in the afternoon. The sun gives me natural blue light. See, it's not this is
Mm-hmm.
it's not the frequency itself that's bad, it's the nature of the frequency.
Mm-hmm.
So I can go outside and get energized right now from the natural blue light. But at 9 o'clock at night tonight, I'm not supposed to be
Depleted.
looking at any blue light because I'm tricking my brain into thinking I'm alert and I need energy. I should be looking at, candlelight or just the incandescent, like the
Mm-hmm.
warmer colors. So it's best to do that and to kind of follow the sun in terms of how you use your technology as best as you
Mm-hmm.
can.
Mm-hmm. I know in the summer here, I'm older, so in the summer, sun can be out till 10 o'clock, but I like to be in my pajama. I can go to bed at 8,
Yeah.
9 o'clock still,
Right.
and, I don't need to be up that late anymore. And
Hmm.
and I do think, the wireless convenience is carrying a hidden cost that few people have fully reckoned with, and now our kids are constantly have a phone in their hand, and you see them. Although I am hearing I have seen some parents that don't let their kids have phones or social media, and they're 15 years old, so I think that's a good thing. But, yeah.
Yeah. It there's a study out of India. They did 25,000 school age students from the age of 18, and they tracked how early they were given a smartphone and then measured their behavior or state of depression and stress. And they noticed that the earlier they were given a smartphone, the more depression and anxiety they had as young adults, the more likely they were to question their gender, and the
Mhm.
more likely they were to have suicidal thoughts before they left high school,
Wow.
the younger they were given. So,
Wow.
um, there we don't really understand all the frequencies due to our brain, but it's creating this fake dopamine experience and this addiction that, I mean, how often have you found yourself just looking at your phone just to see if you had a message?
Yes, or the scrolling in social media. I've been pretty much
Oh,
off social I have to use it for work,
yeah.
but I'm not doing all the doom scrolling because there have been events that have happened where I'm tied to my phone and I could feel that dopamine hit. And then I'm feeling all like anxious and depressed after, and I just have to cut it. So I can recognize when I'm starting to get that dopamine hit. I'm like, oh, I'm getting a dopamine hit. I got to stay away social media. And these
Yep.
poor kids are. And that study is something that every parent I think should have available to them
It's
and see. I mean, there's
incredibly
no way.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got it on my website, so I'll share the link with you.
Yeah, I would love to share that link with me, and I'll put everything in the show notes. So, with that, I would love for my audience to know how to find you, work with you, read about some of these EMFs or how they can empower themselves, what you're wearing around your neck, too.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's part of the journey. We started off as a for-profit company because that's just what you do. But then 2 years ago, we converted over to a 508 nonprofit. And so we do everything as a nonprofit now.
Hmm.
We're a ministry trying to help people regain their EMF health. And so probably very shortly after this airs and all, we'll have a kind of a coaching opportunity on our website as well. But mainly what we've been doing is sharing these products that made such a huge difference in our family. And it started off just be people asking us. And so it's very much we're offering it back to society, basically helping people receive these that are interested. If it resonates with you, we would love to talk to you. The website's essentialenergy.us. And there are these metal plates that have been restructured on the surface to amplify the quality and the quantity of light that comes in the body. And we can measure that very well. We have lots of these studies on our website, independent as well as our own, that just show, the data behind what happens physically to the body when it gets more light and the balance we get. And if you have questions about it, I advise a lot of people and a lot of farmers on this
Hmm.
to help them restore the land. I am all about stewardship when it comes to this. So we say energy focused or energy first stewardship. There's a lot of people who can focus on different aspects of stewardship, but this is the one that really made a huge difference in our family. And so I'm privileged. I'm grateful to be able to share that with people who it resonates with.
Mhm.
And it's happening more and more all the time. And I'm grateful for it. I think as the other forces become stronger, these forces become stronger as well. And people
Yes.
want to reclaim their own estate. They really want to reclaim their own personal strength. And sometimes we need a tool to help us do that. And these tools help us get over that hump, that edge that energetically we struggle with. And it's amazing that the experiences people have, they get health benefits from it, but it's their body healing itself. But then also just spirituality deepens as well. And there's just a lot of
So
different
you're
journeys
more
that people have
clearer.
been able
Yeah.
to go
You're
on.
not having all this bombardment. You're clearer.
The chaos is quieted down big time.
Well, that's really admirable of you that you went turn this into a nonprofit. And I'm just looking at your website here and all the products you have. And is this a family you know that, or is, oh my gosh, the dog has one too, a necklace. The
Yeah,
whole
so a
family
lot of
has
our
it.
farmers will do that.
Yeah.
We definitely put them on our pets. Our pets are actually a little bit. We have a vet down in Tampa that did some studies. It seems like the animals are more susceptible to the EMF than we are.
Mm,
Maybe because their 4 feet are on the ground and there's a lot of stray voltage in the ground, but they have more microplastics in them than we do. Probably
Jesus.
because their food is more processed than ours.
I wish I could give them raw
I know that's a
food.
whole other topic,
Yeah.
but animals they get short into the stick in a lot of things, and so
Mm.
but these plates can hang around your dog or your cat's neck just like they do ours, and or if it's too not convenient to do that, you can put them right underneath the bed where they sleep.
All over the place. My
Yeah,
cat's all over the place.
yeah. So, but we also have ones that like these plates can go in a little scalar stand. I know you said you had somebody on recently talking about scalar energy.
Mhm.
So there's a scalar antenna that can be attached or can be as an accessory to this, and then it'll broadcast this field out around the whole home
Mm.
also. So now you're getting photonic and scalar conditioned energy around the house. So it's all about restoring that environment. You can't heal in the same environment you got sick, but
Mm-mm.
we can change the environment to make us healthy. And our body responds very quickly, actually.
It's like,
Uh,
"Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, exactly. And
Thank
it's a
you."
privilege. I love it. Yeah. The conversations we get into are amazing and way better than those corporate boardrooms we used to be a part of.
Gosh, yeah. You're helping so many people and helping yourself and so many people to get out of this matrix. It's crazy what has been exposed in the last couple of years. I had no idea. But yeah, I'm looking at your website. I might have to order something myself. What is the one you have around your neck? Is it the active?
Yeah. This is the active.
Okay. And you got that cool leather
Yeah.
case for it. So you're still getting it even though it's in the leather pouch? Well, it's because
Yeah.
it's
But
natural.
the light goes right
Yeah,
through
because it's
the
natural.
clothing and
Mhm.
the leather. There's just yeah. I know it's funny because when we talk about light, we think about visible light, what we see, but that is a very small percentage of the entire light spectrum.
Mhm.
And so these plates are interacting with the entire spectrum, all the natural photons, all the natural light that's out there and structuring that. And so it's not just what we see, but it's all the entire spectrum.
Well,
Yeah.
wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on today. I have one last questions before we go. One
Yeah.
last question, singular. What does it mean for you to live with an awakened heart?
I think it means to be present and engaged and receptive to what my calling is and to quiet the noise so that I can stay on that true path and receive what that path has for me.
Beautiful, beautiful staying on that path and being open. I love
Yeah.
that. So, thank you so much for coming on today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. It's early by you. Mm.
Yeah.
I hope you have the sun out. And I know that it's not necessarily. Are you sunny today out there? Because a lot of times it's not.
No, it's sunny over here for us today. So
Okay, wow.
as soon as I'm done with this, I'm going to go back outside, shed all the artificial EMF I've just taken in, go get some sun, let it process
So
out. But yeah, it's sunny. And then we
fabulous.
get to share what we know, right? That's part of
Yes,
that awakened heart too, is being able to share what we take in, and what freely we receive, freely we give.
through the eyes. I
That's
just
right.
picture I'm gonna look at people now and think
Yeah.
like one of the
Like Tron,
superheroes.
the meme.
Yes, yes. All right. Well, thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, Nancy.
All right.
Appreciate it
Bye.
so much.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Awaken Heart podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, share it with a friend. And if you haven't already, head on over to your favorite podcast app to subscribe, rate, and review. If you have any comments, questions, or feedback, you can reach me at theawakenheartpodcast.com.